And this episode is for those of you that desire to show up to the energy of self doubt with love, with compassion. Those of you that desire to harness the beauty of self trust. Those of you that desire to show up to your life powerfully no matter what's going on. Those of you that are ready to bet on yourself, whether it's through your career, through your relationships, through stepping into motherhood, or maybe through letting go of some relationships that no longer serve you. So if that is where you are, then that is who is going to get the most out of this episode. Hola, mis amores, and welcome to today's episode of the Yenory Pouncil podcast. One of the topics that I am constantly discussing with my clients is the topic of self-confidence. And it's not just with my clients. About 2 months ago, one of my girlfriends, who's a business owner, actually interviewed me because she was doing a study on self-confidence. And she shared with me that she wanted to talk to me because I was one of the most confident women that she knows. The interesting thing about self-confidence to me, though, is that I remember thinking that it was something that either I had or I didn't have. It's either I'm confident or I'm not confident. And what I've learned in the 14 years that I've been dedicating myself to self mastery is that that's not really how self confidence works. Self confidence is not about whether you have it or not. Self confidence is about how you can tap into deeper levels of it. And that's why today I would like to share with you 4 behaviors that can help you build your self confidence. Especially because after last year, when I experienced that huge transition in my business and in my life that I talked about in my mini series on the power of unlocking spiritual discernment in your life, I learned a lot about self confidence. I learned a lot about what it means to be a confident mother, about what it means to be a confident spouse, about what it meant to be a confident business owner. And it actually helped me shift quite a bit of things in my life to bring them into alignment with really showing up confidently for me. So today I want to pull back those curtains and show you what that process was like for me and how did I apply it to my business? How did I apply it to my life and how it transformed me? As promised, I also want to give you a behind the scenes look at the Self Trust Society, which is my private community that I am co creating with badass women of the African diaspora that are focused on loving themselves unconditionally. So if you're here for all of that, you are in the right place. Let's get started. So, first thing is first, what is self confidence? One of the things that I learned in this process is that self confidence is the byproduct of doing an activity over and over and over again. For example, if you are into running, you may feel confident in your running abilities because you have ran over and over and over again. If you have a business and your business has generated quite a bit of income or profits, let's say, then you're going to develop a confidence in that because you have done it over and over and over again. So self-confidence comes from your ability to do the same thing over and over and over again. So when people tell me that they have a difficult time with their confidence or that they don't feel confident, it's because whatever they're seeking to feel that confidence towards, they haven't done it enough times, or they have not, or they don't realize how often they have done it. So they aren't able to see what their action record is. And the reason why I bring this up is because I want us to be on the same page. I want us to both know what self confidence is from my perspective, because if we are both looking at it from the same perspective, we can grow together and we can take this information and apply it. I am truly gifted in being able to look at situations and recognize patterns in those situations. And I do that with other people, and I also do it with myself. That's actually why I'm so good at it, is because I first do it with me. And when it came to my self confidence, I realized, particularly in 2023, that my self confidence was not in the place I desired to be when it came to my business. A lot of this was due to the relationship I have with my mentors, which I talked about in both episode 66, 67, and also in 65. So 3 episodes. I did a mini series on the power of unlocking spiritual discernment in your life, where I talked about my relationship with mentors, my relationship with clients, and how that impacted me and my belief in myself. And all of these things really impacted my self-confidence too. By the time I made the decisions to release those clients and release those mentors, I was in a place where my confidence had to go through a process of rebuilding. I was in a place where my confidence had to go through a process of rebirthing. And what I want to do today is walk you through what that process was like and show you exactly what I did, exactly how it impacted me, so that you can take these lessons with you and apply them to your life. To do so, I'm going to walk you through how I apply these lessons to the Self Trust Society because, like I shared with you in the previous episodes, that was a big takeaway from those experiences. It was noticing that I had put so much pressure on myself and so much of my success in the hands of other people that when those people weren't in my life anymore, I had this fear that I couldn't do it alone. I had this doubt about my ability to excel at it. And this is the first lesson I want to share with you about self confidence. You can be a very confident person and experience self doubt. Being confident doesn't mean that you're not going to experience self doubt. Being confident simply means that you're going to be able to show up to the energy of self doubt with a different energy. And this episode is for those of you that desire to show up to the energy of self doubt with love, with compassion. Those of you that desire to harness the beauty of self trust. Those of you that desire to show up to your life powerfully no matter what's going on. Those of you that are ready to bet on yourself, whether it's through your career, through your relationships, through stepping into motherhood, or maybe through letting go of some relationships that no longer serve you. So if that is where you are, then that is who is going to get the most out of this episode. Let's begin with sharing with you the 4 stages that you're going to experience in this journey, because these are the 4 behaviors that you want to be aware of while we talk about self-confidence. Now, first thing is first, I focus a lot working with Black women because I am a Black woman. I come from a Black woman, and Black women are my mission. I love Black women. I love the magic that we co create. I love the way we show up in the world. And I really desire for us to be and embody the highest version of ourselves because of how magical I know that we truly are. So if you are a Black woman and you're watching this or listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I want to say welcome home. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I want to encourage you to head to the show notes and grab the link to join us on YouTube because I have quite the visuals for us, ladies, and I want to make sure that you get the full experience. And when you do get to YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can notified as soon as we drop an episode. So the first thing we're going to do, I want us to talk about the 4 stages of self-trust. This is extremely important because the number one thing I hear when people are telling me that they're having an issue with their self-confidence is that they're not trusting themselves. They wouldn't think that they're not trusting themselves. For them, it's something else. For them, it may look like, oh, I'm just not sure how to do it, or I feel stressed about this, or I feel stressed about that, or I feel like I gotta do what this other person is saying, or I'm overthinking my decisions. I don't feel like I have a clear direction. Those are the manifestations of lacking self trust. That's what it looks like when you don't trust yourself. You sit in the energy of people pleasing, you sit in the energy of overthinking, you sit in the energy of perfectionism analysis, and you become really attached to the idea of controlling other people. And when you are in that energy, it's very challenging for you to grow your self confidence. It's very challenging for you to continue doing the thing that you desire to do when it feels uncomfortable over and over and over and over again. Because when you do something over and over and over again, it's when you become really confident at it. You think about athletes, basketball players, football players, they get really confident at their game because they have been doing it over and over again. The Steph Currys of the world, the Serena Williams of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, like they could dominate their sport because they have been playing that sport for a really long time. They have been practicing it for a really long time. So when they show up, it's not their first rodeo or their 100th rodeo. They are putting in thousands and thousands of hours on their craft, and that's where their confidence comes from. And that can only happen because they trust themselves, because they trust themselves to show up. They trust themselves to listen to the people they hire to support them. They trust themselves to see themselves honestly, and they trust themselves to receive the fruits of their labor. And that's what I want to walk you through. That's why we're going to focus on the stages of self trust, because self trust is the root. When you are able to trust yourself, you're going to bear delicious fruits of self-confidence because you're going to show up even when it feels uncomfortable. And that's when most people don't show up, when it feels uncomfortable, because they don't want to face the discomfort that comes from showing up for themselves. And like I told you in the previous episode, I'm not afraid to be afraid. I'm not afraid to be uncomfortable for Yenory. I do it all the time. And that's where my self confidence comes from, is because I know how I'm going to show up. I may not know how other people are going to show up. I actually perhaps don't know how people are going to show up. I don't know how people are going to react. I don't know what people are going to say. What I do know is how I am going to show up, how I'm going to respond, what I am going to say, and what is the way I'm going to handle a situation, because I've done it over and over and over again. So let's go through what are the 4 stages of self-trust. So self-trust is really all about your ability to show up powerfully in your life. And in that process, it comes down to these 4 stages. These stages move in this pyramid-like shape because at the core, you are going through an ascension. Every single stage you experience is going to be building on the previous stage. And it's going to be supporting you in your journey to trusting yourself, because the more you trust yourself, the easier it is for you to build your self confidence. And when you build your self confidence, you show up to your life with the energy that you desire. And that is where your higher self can bloom. That is where those are the conditions in which your highest self can evolve and show up fully. So, the first stage that you're going to experience is the discovering stage. This is also the first behavior that you're going to want to put in place so that you can build your self confidence. You got to be willing and able to discover who you are, to discover how you show up in situations. What I mean by that is creating space to acknowledge yourself. Most of us, we don't acknowledge who we are. We don't acknowledge how we feel about situations. We don't acknowledge how things impact us, because we have learned that we got to put that to the side. We have learned that that's not important. We have learned that there are other things that we quote unquote got to be doing. And it is important that we hold space to discover ourselves, because when we discover ourselves, we can look at our foundation, we can look at what we have created and determine if there are any cracks that require us to make shifts, that require us to make edits, that require us to make changes. The second stage you're going to experience is the shedding stage. This stage comes after the discovering stage, because when you discover yourself, you're going to learn some things about you. You're going to learn some things that you're going to like. And you're also going to learn some things that perhaps you're not going to enjoy. And when you begin to pay attention to these things, you're going to be invited to look at yourself differently. And this is why shedding is such an important part of this process. Because when you shed, you learn to accept yourself. You learn to look at yourself with this uncomfortable honesty, and you tap into compassion and you tap into self forgiveness to support you in looking at yourself with this honesty while also holding space for grace. The shedding stage is a really powerful stage that you're going to experience in the journey to self trust, and it helps build your self confidence because it allows you to see what are the behaviors that keep you from being confident. What are the behaviors that keep you from showing up to yourself fully over and over again? And when you can spot these behaviors, you can respond to those behaviors with a different energy. You can put systems in place so that you can show up in the way you desire to show up. The third stage that you're going to experience is the embodying stage. This is all about alignment. In the embodying stage, you're living your day to day aligned with your values and align with your values in all areas of your life. I often find that people have values. Most of the people that come work with me, most of the women that come work with me, they all have values. Here's the thing though, they're not confident in them values. Why not? Because those values are saved in a Google folder and their Google Drive, and then look at them in Lord knows how long. So it's very difficult for you to feel confident in something that's not front and center to you. It's very difficult for you to feel confident and to align a set of behaviors that you don't even remember. And this is why it is so important that you go through this embodying stage, because when you're going through the embodying stage, you are aligning your values with your life. You are showing up in the way that you say you're going to show up. And when you show up in the way that you're going to show up, it feels good. And then you build yourself, you build your confidence in yourself, in your ability to do the thing you say you're going to do. And over time, that grows your self confidence. It's a very powerful stage to experience because you get to really live out your values. The last stage that you're going to experience, the fourth stage, is the integrating stage. The integrating stage is a really powerful stage for you to experience because in the integrating stage, you are allowing God to lead you. You are allowing God to steer you into co creating magic in your life. And this is where surrender comes in. Most people have a difficult time with self confidence because they aren't willing to surrender. They aren't willing to let go of the things that they cannot control. They aren't willing to let go of how other people are going to react to them. They aren't willing to let go that they can't control how people are going to react to them. And they want to show up in a way that people are going to approve, that people are going to okay. And when that happens, we rob ourselves of the opportunity. We rob ourselves of our ability to show up powerfully in our lives. This is why it is important that we go through an integrating stage. And when we are going through that integrating stage, it's us and God. The other day I was talking to one of my sorority sisters, and she called this, she referenced this stage with the name my God bubble. You're sort of in this God bubble where it's literally you and God. You are in your prayer mode, you are in your spirituality bag, and you're really focused on looking at yourself from a position of what can I control? Let me focus only on those things. And when you are able to do that, your life transforms. Because when you are integrating your learnings into your life, you are taking what serves you, you're letting go of everything else, you are shifting yourself, you are changing your mindset, you are opening yourself up to your feelings, you are looking at yourself with that uncomfortable honesty, and you're giving yourself grace. And then you are aligning yourself through with your values, you're living your values. Your confidence has no other option but to skyrocket. It has no other option. And I know this because I've done it over and over again. Let's talk about last year. So I shared with y'all in the previous episode that I went through this shedding period. I went through this entire season when I was letting mentors go, clients go, always a being go, all these different things. I actually went through every single one of these stages since 20, starting at the end of 2022, all the way to now. So I'm going to walk you through what happens at each stage and what happened with me and how did I show up to those things. Let's get into that. So, the first thing is the discovering stage. I want to introduce you to this concept that I teach my clients. It's called the conditioned self versus the iconic self. This is a very powerful concept because we have learned to look at ourselves through the lenses of our conditioning. Conditioning isn't good or bad. Conditioning is simply a way of learning something. And when you understand what your conditioning has been, then you can choose to make different decisions that align you with who you desire to be. And you want to think about the conditioned self as the person that you have learned to be, as the person that your parents taught you needed to be, as the person that society taught you needed to be, as the person that your environment has taught you needed to be. And your iconic self is the person you desire to show up as, is the person that you desire to allow yourself to grow into, is the person you desire to evolve into, is the person that you desire to amplify in yourself and in your life. So when you see it from that angle, it's really clear to you who have you learned to be and who you desire to be. And what we're going to talk about is what gets in the way of us being able to do that. Because when you are clear on that, you can show up to those moments with power and you can really build your self confidence. So, looking first at our conditioned self. So, the conditioned self tends to feel confused and frustrated. She tends to feel lost, disoriented. There's quite a bit of shame here, burnout, and helplessness. These are the energy. This is the energy that's present when we are discovering ourselves and we've been operating out of our conditioning. Again, this isn't good or bad. This isn't about you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong. This is really about you looking at yourself with the energy of self accountability. Now, when you are operating in this conditioned self energy and you're discovering yourself, you're going to notice that your biggest perceived problem is lacking a clear direction in fear of taking action, to be honest. And these feelings, they manifest in the form of people pleasing because that is a way of reacting to old patterns. And this is what I experienced when I was going through my own discovery process, when I was looking at myself and realizing I don't have a direction for myself right now. I am so focused listening to the mentors. I'm so focused doing everything I can to quote unquote keep the clients, to keep getting paid, that I've lost sight of my direction. I lost sight of why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? And that is what happens when you get into the energy of people pleasing. You don't feel like you got a clear direction for yourself because you are looking to please every single person except you. So naturally, that leads to frustration, that leads to burnout, that leads to feeling shame for stepping out of those behaviors. When I was going through that experience, I was experiencing so much burnout because I was pushing myself and forcing myself to do things that were out of alignment with me. And I kept on convincing myself that I quote unquote had to do it. I kept on convincing myself that there was no other way. This is what happens with us when we are in this energy, when we are discovering ourselves through the lenses of our conditioning. We start to realize all the ways in which we've been focused on people pleasing, all the ways in which we've been focused on feeling helpless, and all the shame we've been feeling for showing up like that. And it is in those moments that I want to invite you to look at yourself through the lenses of your iconic self. So, the iconic self, instead of feeling confused and frustrated and disoriented and burned out, she actually feels curious. She feels curious about what she has going on. When you are in this energy, and if you see yourself and you're like, oh, I've been in this energy, then baby, you are in your iconic self. You are feeling curious, you are feeling willing, available, and grounded. And this comes because you are holding space for stillness. You are holding space to know that your direction comes from within. You're not focused on following what other people are telling you to do. You are focused on what God is sharing with you from your own stillness practice because you are cultivating the skill of acknowledging your feelings with compassion. And when you cultivate the skill of acknowledging your feelings with compassion, you are able to move through the feelings of confusion and frustration and disorientedness with a level of ease and flow that allows you to instead step into the energy of curiosity. And when you're curious about yourself, you aren't judging yourself. When you're curious about yourself, you are open to see how you're showing up. When you're curious about yourself, you're not putting yourself in a box that says you're doing this wrong and you got to do it differently. You're open to see, why am I doing that? When I was experiencing my discovery process and looking at, yo, how have I been showing up in my business? How have I been showing up in my life? At first, I was frustrated. I was pretty disoriented. I was confused as hell. And then I began to be curious and I began to pay attention to things. And then I realized that I was feeling lost because I had so many things going on. I was a new parent, I had a baby, I'm also married. Now you have new people being parents, and I'm also creating this business. My business is growing, my business is evolving. So, as you can see, there's quite a lot of things going on. I was juggling a lot of things at the same time, and that process led to these feelings of frustration. That process of looking to show up in the same way while I was changing and growing ended up leading to feeling helpless. It ended up leading to the burnout because I was operating out of a way that was no longer in alignment with where I was. I was looking to show up to my business with the same energy that I had before I had a baby. I was looking to show up to my life in the same way before I was a mother and also a business owner. And that wasn't working for me. And I wasn't allowing myself to see that. I was ignoring how I was feeling. I was avoiding how I was feeling. And that kept me in that energy of burnout. That kept me in the energy of confusion. And when I became willing to look at myself differently, when I became willing to be in stillness, I started to realize, oh, Yenory, this is okay. You going through a lot right now, babes. You can take your time and we can look at what are the small changes we can make in order to exit this energy. That is what it looks like to do this. Because then I noticed that I was having the energy of people policing. And that meant that I wasn't policing myself. I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't honoring myself. And I realized that that had to change. I want to share with you a quote that always speaks to me. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is one of the most powerful quotes I have ever read. Because oftentimes, when I have been discovering myself, I have been very afraid of going at it with other people. Because I have felt that if I go at it with them, I'm not able to grow myself. I'm not able to show up as Yenory. And this is why I got the courage to start the Self Trust Society. These were some of the things that I discovered when I went on this journey of self discovery. The first thing I realized was that it had been 14 years that I had been searching for a community. Because I took the space to look at how I was showing up and acknowledge how I was feeling, I really sat down and paid attention to, well, you know, how are you really feeling? And I realized that for 14 years and counting, I have been searching for a space where my self love is going to be celebrated, a place where we were committed to letting go of the energy of rushing, a place that was focused on putting ourselves first and celebrating our bodies, our hearts, our minds, and our spirits while we were healing. I was looking for a place that would meet us exactly where we were at as we stepped out of the spell of mental survival mode and embraced being the best version of ourselves with joy as a woman, as a Black woman, as a Garifuna woman, as an immigrant woman, as a daughter of the African diaspora. The Subtra Society, y'all, is that space. And it was because I was able to quiet myself and acknowledge how I was feeling that I saw that. And I wouldn't have been able to see that if I hadn't done that because everybody else had been so loud. Everyone else's voice had become so loud that I could not even hear my own voice. And this is the beautiful thing that happened. I became really clear on what kind of women I was looking to serve. Because until this point, I was looking for a quick fix. I'm like, well, if I do this, if I do this, if I do that. And I was running around like a chicken with a head cut off. What a crazy and weird expression, by the way. But that's how I was feeling all over the place. Again, that lack of direction, that confusion. Where am I going? Who am I listening to? What am I doing? Who am I working with? I was letting money be my master. And when I paused and I discovered that all of that was going on, it became really clear to me on who I was expecting. Who were the type of women that I desired to co create with? And I realized very clearly that the Subject Society is the go to space for intuitive women leaders of the African diaspora that are loving themselves unconditionally, that are overflowing with mental calm and inner peace, and are doing this no matter what's happening in their lives. These powerhouses that I get to serve are leading their lives, trusting their intuition, full of compassion, full of openness, and they're doing it right now. This came from my ability to look at the caliber of women that I have been serving for the last 14 years. This came from my decision to pause that mastermind I told y'all about in the previous episode and look at the clients that I enjoyed working with the most and what were the transformations they were getting. And when I was able to again acknowledge my feelings, I discovered that these were the exact type of women that I actually desired to serve and that the Subject Society was already that place. It had been that place. And I simply didn't realize it because I was so focused doing what everybody else wanted me to do, because I was so focused not trusting myself. And therefore, my confidence was mirroring that. My confidence in my business was reflecting the self trust I felt. Because the thing is, y'all, your self confidence is only going to grow to the level of your self trust. If you don't trust yourself, you ain't gonna feel confident in yourself. If you don't trust yourself with yourself, you're not gonna feel confident in your ability to trust yourself and your ability to show up with yourself. And that's where I was. That's how I know that this works like this. This is how I've learned this. I put myself through this myself. I put myself through this process, and that's how I gathered this insight. The interesting thing that happened as well was that as I went through this process of self-discovery, I became really clear that I actually had my vision for this space. One of the things that I felt at a point was that I didn't know my vision. Like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with this place. I don't know where I want to take it. Again, that energy of confusion because I was operating out of my conditioned self. I was operating out of who I thought I needed to quote unquote be. And what I was able to do when I silenced the noise, I was able to see that my vision for the Self-Just Society was overwhelmingly clear. Like it was so clear for me. And I want to share it with you because this is what happens when you start to discover yourself. You start to surprise yourself sometimes on how clear you are with the things you desire. And for me, the vision is this: it is to catalyze every single woman leader of the African diaspora to feel whole, complete, and confident so that they can show up with expanded authenticity, purpose, ease, and joy that allows them to ignite a chain reaction of growth, of collaboration, and of prosperity in their lives, in their companies, and in their communities. This is the vision that I have for every single person I come into contact with. This is the vision that I have for the women of the African diaspora that I get to serve. This is the vision that I have for myself. This is my purpose. This is why I've been placed on this earth at this time. This is why I decided to come down here so that I can show up in this way. And this was so buried underneath the layers of conditioning. This was so buried underneath the layers of shame, of burnout, of people pleasing, of overthinking, that it took quite a bit of energy to pull it out. And the thing about self confidence is you gotta be willing to do this part. You gotta be willing to discover yourself. You got to be willing to look at what's underneath the surface so that you can get to the meat of who you really are and who you desire to expand into. And that's why I'm walking you through this in this way, because I want you to see what it's like to do this real time. I want you to see what it's like to discover yourself and to do it with love, because self discovery can be very uncomfortable. I want to be honest about that. Sometimes you want to see some shit you don't like. Okay. And we're going to get to how do we navigate that in a second. But before we do that, I want you to know that it is going to happen. And when you are prepared with the knowing that it's going to happen, you can show up to it powerfully and compassionately too. Through this process, I was able to tap into my core values. And I'm going to talk about the core values now because this was something that I found myself rediscovering. And this was one of the things that came out of me working in that branding project that I told you about that I did that ended up sunsetting. There was actually something beautiful that came out of that. And it was really looking at what are the core values that I have and what are the core values of my company. Because up to this point, I was operating out of whoever core value was making me money, if I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is a safe space, right? I could be honest with you. I could be vulnerable. That's the energy I was on. I was like, I finna get paid. What do I gotta do to get paid? Let me do that. And then when I quieted myself and acknowledged where I was, acknowledged how I felt, acknowledged that showing up with that energy didn't feel good to me and that I didn't want to continue expanding it. I didn't want to continue amplifying it. I was able to see that I had core values that were very much aligned with who I desired to be and write them down and reflect on them. And I was able to do that because of the work I had done with that branding project that I sunsetted. Here they are. Here are the core values that I was able to go back to and look at so that I can then prepare for when I began my embodying stage, which I'm going to share with you later on this episode. My first core value was joy. This wasn't the core value that I started with at the beginning. This was a core value that I placed in here after I went through my discovery process. This is the thing. This is what I learned. Because when you are going through your discovery stage, when you are tapping into this behavior of discovering yourself to build your self confidence, you're going to walk away with a list of things that you have learned that you want to take with you to the next stage. And for me, it was this. These were the core values that I wanted to take with me. I've shared with you the vision already. I've shared with you what I saw the society being. Now, here were the values we were going to live by. First is joy, unconditional self love no matter what. I'm talking about you can put yourself first with the partner, the children, the family, your friends, your career, and the community. You deserve you. This was a value that I was able to experience and to tap into because I went through the discovery process. Second value was ease. Transformation without the burnout. You can love the life you live and have a great time doing it while experiencing effortless success. Sometimes I forget this. Sometimes my clients forget this. Sometimes my friends forget this. And this is here to remind me that this is a possibility for us. It's actually an inevitability for us when we allow it. Number three is courage. You get to show up and be calm in the midst of chaos because you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you can tap into your courage. Number three, authenticity. Anybody that knows me knows that I am about authenticity. If something doesn't feel authentic to me, I'm not gonna last in it. If I'm doing something it doesn't feel authentic, I'm literally not gonna last in whatever that is. It's just not aligned with me. When you know yourself, you can master yourself. You get to be the unapologetic version of yourself, feeling all of you and being okay with it. Authenticity is about feeling all of you, not just the things you like and not the things that you don't like. You get to feel all of you. You get to bring all of you into coexisting, and it is a powerful way to live. Number five, freedom. The freedom to choose, the freedom to take ownership of your desires and give yourself permission to live life for the love of the game. I told you I was really big on this money energy, and I realized that that was not in alignment. What I love to do is to live for the love of the game. I love to do it for the joy of it all. I love to do it because it feels good. It lights me up. It lights other people up. That is the frequency that I like to expand. And that is the frequency that I desire my clients or anybody that comes into the subject society or really my world to expand to. And number six, luxury. Feeling worthy of living in opulence and enjoying all of the abundance unconditionally and guilt free. The old version of me would have had luxury first. Actually, the old version of me had luxury first. And I put it in this list and I put it last because luxury comes after all those other things. Luxury for me is joy. Luxury for me is ease. Luxury for me is courage. Luxury for me is authenticity. Luxury for me is freedom. And when all those things are in place, I know that I am living in opulence. I know that I am enjoying all the abundance unconditionally, and I know that I am doing it guilt free. This is what I was able to discover. This is what I was able to unearth during my discovery process. And he set the tone for everything I'm sharing with you right now. It really did. And this is what it's like to go through that first stage. This is why this is the first behavior to build your confidence is to be open to discovering yourself and to do it over and over and over again. Now, I want to go into the second behavior, the second stage. This is the shedding stage. Let me get some water, y'all. She's thirsty. Okay. Shedding, the shedding stage. So, similar to the discovering stage, the shedding stage also has a conditioned self and an iconic self. When we're going through the shedding stage, When we are going through the shedding stage, we are also experiencing the conditioned self and being invited to tap into our iconic self. Here, the conditioned self is actually feeling exhausted, feeling guilty, overwhelmed, with fear of making a mistake and being judged. If you find yourself in a shedding season or a shedding stage and you're going through this experience as your conditioned self, your biggest perceived problem is meeting everyone's expectations. This is actually one of the reasons why you feel exhausted, because it's very difficult to take care of yourself and meet your own expectations when you are focused about meeting everybody else's expectations. Like, you're literally living a double life and it is exhausting because you want to do the thing you want to do and you also trying to do the thing that other people want you to do, and you got the same amount of hours in the day. It can be a lot. These feelings manifest in the form of overthinking your actions. If you find yourself overthinking your actions, it's because you are focused on meeting other people's expectations because you know what you desire to do. And if you are overthinking what you desire to do, it's because you want to do it in a way that is going to meet somebody else's expectations. And sometimes that comes to your own expense. Versus when you are in your iconic self, you're feeling compassionate. You're feeling gentle. You're feeling challenged. And you're also feeling expanded. You are holding space for solitude, knowing that that's the best way to tap into your heart. You are cultivating the skill of taking responsibility for accepting your feelings. This is a powerful skill to cultivate, y'all, because we often seem to believe, and when I say we, I'm talking about me, I'm talking about the clients that I serve, I'm talking about my friends, I'm talking about the business owners that I've met. That's who I'm talking about when I say we or you. We tend to have this belief that other people are responsible for whatever we got going on. We tend to think that it's other people that gotta come address it, that other people gotta come quote unquote fix it. And what you're gonna discover in this path is that it is you. You are the person that is gonna be called to do something about this. And when you are willing to accept that, the shedding process can begin. And it is a beautiful process. The shedding process is this, it's like letting go of old skin. I think about iguanas because I live in Fort Lauderdale and there's all these iguanas out here and they're constantly shedding their skin. They're not fighting the shedding process, they're resting for it. I will see them laying on the palm trees under the sun so that they can have an easier process shedding it. They're not fighting against the fact that that's happening. They are doing their piece so that it can happen with ease. And that is what I have learned from them, that I desire for you to learn from them as well, that you can go through the shedding process with ease. I want to show you what that was like for me. Because for me, the shedding process was all about releasing anything and anyone who wasn't aligned. And it's the same thing for you. When you're going through the shedding process, it is an invitation for you to release anything and anyone who wasn't aligned, who isn't aligned with you anymore. Here is what it meant for me specifically. Number one, it was releasing putting others before my joy, which is something that I was doing before. Next was releasing business offers I wasn't excited to sell. I had business offers that I was pushing out that I wasn't excited for. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't selling. Because the thing is that energy is honest. And if you're not excited about the thing that you're doing, people are going to know. If you're not excited about what you're putting out, people are going to know. And guess what? They ain't going to buy it. They may not know why they're not buying it, but they're going to be like, something doesn't feel right. You know why? Because we are not rational beings. We are emotional beings. We are not human beings having spiritual experiences. We are spiritual beings having human experiences. So we can feel the frequency. We can feel that the energy is off, even when we aren't able to articulate why. And when we feel like something is off, most of the time, we're not going to go for it. We're going to be like, I don't know. And when we do go for it, we're going to quickly realize why that feeling was there in the first place. And that's why one of the things that I committed myself to doing was releasing offers that I wasn't excited to sell because they weren't even selling anyway. Next was releasing business mentors and communities that I outgrew. It is okay to outgrow communities. It is okay to outgrow people. It is okay to outgrow mentors. You are constantly growing. You are constantly evolving. Some stuff, you're not going to be in there longer than you need to be. It's okay to let that stuff go. And oftentimes we have learned in our conditioned stuff that we got to hold on to things that, oh, well, I got to do what they want me to do. Again, meeting those expectations of other people. And that energy leads to overthinking it. Wait, is it time for me to go? Is it time for me to leave? Is it time for me to stay? Like, what should I do? Is that resonating with you? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because this is what happens, y'all. And when you find yourself in that energy, you keep yourself from leaving. My rule of thumb is if you have to ask, it's because you already know the vibes. By the time you're asking somebody, do you think I should leave? It's because you already been knew it was time for you to go. Next was releasing clients who had outgrown me and I outgrew. This was something that I myself found myself experienced. What a tongue twister. This was something that I found myself experiencing. There were clients that I outgrew. Guess what? They had to go too. They had other things to do. They had other people to experience. And it was okay because I know that the people that I serve are coming with me for a season. And once that season is complete, they're going to go about their lives. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to work together again in the future. That doesn't mean that our work wasn't impactful. That has nothing to do with me and my self-worth. And when your confidence is not in the place where you desire it to be, you can feel like it is about you. You can make it about you. You can make it about your self-worth. You can attach it to you versus thinking this person has outgrew me. This person is ready for their next season. And I am happy for them. I am excited for them. I want them to go out there and experience it. That is what's possible for you. And that's what I desire for you to experience. So when you're going through your own shedding season, pay attention to who have you outgrown and who has outgrown you. Because ain't nobody going where you go, ain't nobody going to the next season of your life. And you are not going to the next season of everybody's lives. It's okay. That is how the process of life works. And when you are willing to know that and experience that, then you can build your self confidence because you know that it's not about you. You know that you can continue to let those things go and those people go and those circumstances go without holding on. This is what the shedding process is so important, y'all. The next thing I released was sales styles that felt forced. I had learned to sell from quite a few people, and some of the people I learned to sell had a hard sell. It's called quote unquote hard sell. It's almost like pushy. And that never really sat well with me, even as people were teaching me that style. And they were like, well, you sometimes you gotta like walk people through them. And there's a difference between walking people through them and what I thought I was doing. Because at point I felt like this person is not going to be a good fit for this. We keep on doing it like this. And because I was hearing that mental chatter from other people, I was looking to meet their expectations around my sales and my numbers. I may have found myself pushing sales that weren't in alignment. And in that moment, I didn't know that. I want to be really clear with that. I wasn't willingly doing that or knowingly doing that. I was doing it. I didn't know I was doing it. And once I took a step back and went through my discovery stage and realized, oh, I'm doing that, I put that as something I wanted to shed. I'm like, I'm not interested in doing that anymore. Unless you're like Yenory, you are my person. I'm excited to work with you. You are a full body yes for me. I'm not doing that. Because if you are a full body yes to that, what I offer, that means we are a magical match. It means that our frequencies are so in alignment, and that is going to co-create magic between the two of us. The results that you're going to get because you work with me, because you have a full body yes to working with me, is going to be different than the results that someone is going to get because they felt forced. I don't want that. I want people to come and work with me and get the best results. So I know that anybody that feels forced is not going to get them. And that's why one of the things I wanted to shed was that energy of showing up in a way that wasn't in alignment for me. Now, for you, it may not be sales. You may be shedding, pushing people to do something you want them to do. You may be shedding the idea that people got to show up in a certain way for you in order for you to accept them. That might be something that you're letting go. What is it for you? You gotta ask yourself that. And once you have it, let me know in the comments below this video so that I know the vibes. The last thing that was on my list for shedding was marketing styles that didn't excite me. When I took a step back and I look at my marketing, I realized that it was every mentor's voice except my own. I was marketing in all the places. I was on Instagram, I was on Facebook, I was on Pinterest, I was with my email list. I wasn't on YouTube at the time, well, at least not consistently. I was on Threads, and I also wasn't on X. I was in all these places. I was spreading myself so thin, and it wasn't yielding the results. I was also speaking at different places and I was doing partnerships. Like I was so tired and burnt out because of all the places I was going to, because I thought that those were the things that were going to lead to the sales. And the reality was that it wasn't. The reality was that that wasn't necessary for me, but I didn't know it because I was so focused on showing up in that way. And when you are used to showing up in that way, guess what? You keep on showing up in that way, even when it doesn't serve you. So that is where I found myself in those moments. That's where I was like, okay, Yenory, we got to talk about this, babes. We got to talk about this. We got to let this one go. So I began to let those things go and going through my shedding season in my shedding stage. And it meant to do these things here. And I've shared with you what those was like for me, not only here, but also I shared it with you during my previous episodes that I recorded with this process. Now that we've gone through this, I want to walk you through what it was like to step into my embodying era. Here we are. She's embodying. And it's the embodying stage is super important because this is a stage when you begin to put everything you have been learning into practice. Here's where those core values that I shared with you earlier, where are they? They're right here. Here's what these core values that I shared with you earlier, they come to the surface. This is now time to show up with these things. We've taken the space to let go of all of these things. Well, it's time to embody these things, to be the person that does this every single time. And this is where the embodying stage comes in. Every stage follows the same format, right? So when we are in our embodying stage, there is a conditioned self. We have learned a certain way to show up when we are in our embodying stage. And if you're here, and if you're anything like me, it looks like this. It looks like feeling self-doubt, attached to outcomes, fear and rejection, feeling fearing failure, and having the fear of missing out. Like, how many of you raise your hand if you've had the fear of missing out? Like my hand is raised right now because I've had that fear of missing out. I had the fear of, if I leave this platform, then am I gonna make money? If I stop talking to this type of person, am I going to still generate profit in my business? If I stop showing up in this way, are people gonna like me? If I leave this container, are people gonna be upset with me? Like this energy was present for me because there was a moment when I was showing up as my conditioned self. And this is why I want you to know that it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing to know that you are showing up in your conditioned self. The challenge is when you don't know it. When you know it, you can then redirect it. Because when we are in our conditioned self, our biggest perceived problem is taking consistent action. So when people are talking about confidence, this is a behavior right here that they think they got to start at. This is what they feel like is the beginning. I'm not taking consistent action. Raise your hand if you've been like, I'm not being consistent enough. My hand is raised. Here, my hand is raised for those of you that are watching this on YouTube. This is important because when you know that, then you can see that before you can tap into your embodying era, before you can tap into this power, you got to go through the discovery and the shedding first. That's how you create space. And when you create space, you're not going to experience this problem, this perceived problem of not being consistent. The feelings here manifest in the form of paralysis and perfectionism because you feel like you got to do everything, you got to do it right. Again, that fear of failure. You feel like, oh, I can't mess this up. I can't fuck this up. I got to do it right. I got to get it right the first time. That's an energy that I'm very familiar with. The I got to get it right the first time energy. And when you are embodying, you're going through your embodying stage, you're going to experience these feelings and they're going to show up like this when you are in your conditioned self. And here is your invitation to step into your iconic self, because your iconic self, she actually feels open. You feel open. You feel willful. You feel excited. You feel enthusiastic. You feel supported. And you feel stretched, because it's okay to be stretched. It is your posture around the energy of being stretched that changes when you are in your iconic self. When you are going through this process of embodying and you are operating out of your conditioned self, you feel like you're not supported. You feel like you are very afraid of things not going your way. You are attached to the outcomes. And when you are in your iconic self energy, you are able to see, I'm being stretched and I am also supported. I'm being stretched and I am excited about it. I am being stretched and I am enthusiastic about going through the process. That is the difference. And this happens because you hold space for simplicity, knowing you can reprogram your mind, knowing that you can cultivate the skill of aligning your routines and rituals with your values. The biggest reason why most people that are embodying have a difficult time with taking consistent action is because they make things complicated. They make things complicated and they do not align their actions with their routines and their values. They don't align their routines and rituals with their values. They making it so complicated. And one of the things I've learned, especially from Steve Jobs, I am a Steve Jobs stan. And there's a book called, I think it's called The Power of Simplicity. And it was written by, I'm going to link it in the show notes. It was written by this creative director that worked on the 1984 campaign, I believe, that they did, and the iPod campaign, or the AirPod campaign too, I believe. I might be getting those incorrect, but this particular person worked with Steve Jobs on one of their biggest marketing campaigns, several of their biggest marketing campaigns. And one thing that they talked about was one of the things that makes Apple so successful is that they are champions for simplicity. You got to be a champion for simplicity, because the moment you make things complicated for yourself, you're going to have a difficult time being consistent with the things you desire. And that's going to lead to your confidence being eroded. Also, meaning you ain't going to feel as confident about your stuff. So, being a champion for simplicity is extremely important in this process. In the simplest way to do things is to align your routines and your rituals with the things you value. You say you care about eating well, align your days with eating well. You say you value taking care of your body, align yourself with taking care of your body. You say you value reading, align yourself with reading. You say you value time with your family, create time to spend time with your family. You say you value travel, put time in your schedule to travel throughout the year. That is the simplest way to do this, because the moment you start to make things complicated is the moment that things begin to move in the direction that you don't desire. It's the moment when you feel like I'm not consistent, or I'm not confident, I don't feel good about it. That's how that stuff happens. I want to share with you what it was like for me to go through this process. Okay, yeah, before I do that, I had to find this book because I want to give you correct information. And here it is. It's called Insanely Simple: The Obsession That Drives Apple's Success by Ken Segall. If you're on YouTube, you can see it right now. Here's the cover. And I highly recommend this book. Like, I truly recommend this book to every single person that is listening to this podcast, because simplicity is really important and it's really easy to make things complicated. I know, I've done it. Highly recommend this. I'm going to put this for y'all in the show notes for those of you that are listening on Apple Podcasts or are listening on Spotify. What did it look like for me to go through the embodying process, my embodying stage? Here it is. Embodying is all about talking the talk and walking the walk. For me, it means living my values. The first thing that happened was reconstructing the self to society. Up to this point, I had been operating my community from a different angle. People couldn't really get in unless I let you in personally, unless you were part of my mastermind. And my mastermind was a minimum of $15,000. So unless you were paying a minimum of $15,000, you weren't able to join the Self to Society. The next thing was I started to focus on one icon. I call my clients icons because it is really an acronym for the way that they show up in the world. Also, icon is iconic. I know you people say don't use the word with the definition, but it is iconic. And icon means being intuitive, being compassionate, being open, and doing it in the now. And when you are doing all of those things and you're doing them no matter what, you are showing up in an icon energy, because life happens with you in a different way. Life stops happening to you and it starts happening through you. Life becomes an adventure that you are enjoying. You start to see the beauty in your experiences, and you start to see the beauty in others as well. That's why I call my clients icons, because they are icons. And when they tap into that part of themselves, their lives transforms. Their life transforms. And the same is going to happen to you after you watch this video or listen to this podcast episode and apply the lessons that I'm sharing with you. The next thing I did, so one icon, I realized that I serve one person, and the person that I serve is actually in one of 4 stages. Similar to the stages I'm sharing with you right now, they are in one of these stages I'm sharing with you right now. And what matters is that we are meeting them where they are at their specific stage instead of telling them where they are. It matters that we honor where they are themselves. It also meant bringing all my gifts to the table. I am a very gifted person. There are so many tools I've collected over the years. There have been so many strategies I've learned. I'm the type of person that applies what they learn. So things like weight shedding, for example, I call it shedding instead of loss, because I'm not interested in finding weight back once I get rid of it. That's not something that is hard for me. I can release weight like it's nothing. I've released 40 pounds in the last year with ease, without extreme dieting or extreme working out. Like, I've been able to release that weight and keep it off by listening to my body, which is the way I like to move. I know people that that's very challenging for them. For me, not so much, because I have been doing this for quite a while. And I'm able to bring all the skills that come with that experience to the table and share them with my clients. The other thing I've been able to do too, is anchoring the energy of joy. You have seen joy on this presentation or in this deck at least 10 to 12 times, because joy is that important to me. It is what guides me. Does it bring me joy? Yes. Does it bring me joy? No. It really is that simple for me. Again, we're keeping things simple over here, and I value joy. It's my top core value. So if it doesn't bring me joy, I'm not engaging in it. And it has helped me live my life in such a streamlined and peaceful way. Let me go through these a little bit deeply for you so that you can see what I mean. First one is restructuring the self to society. So instead of me telling the clients or the prospects or the people that want to work with me where to go, I let them tell me where they go. I let them choose their own adventure. The first adventure they can choose, depending on where they are, is what we call the blooming lotus. These are actually badges that I've created for members of the Celtic Society. So if you join us as a Blooming Lotus, you're going to get to have one of these badges. And if you're not seeing the badge because you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, come to the YouTube channel so you can see what we're talking about. So the Blooming Lotus is all about discovering yourself. This is for the icon who's desiring to focus on self-discovery, because some of us are simply focused on self-discovery right now. Some of us are in our self-discovery bag. And the focus here is taking radical responsibility and releasing the attachment to external validation, which manifests as people pleasing. I talked to you about me going through that journey and experiencing people pleasing and how it was impacting my business and all the things I decided to shift out of that. Well, I want you to be able to make those changes for yourself. So if you are currently focused on the self-discovery, then you're going to want to come in as a Blooming Lotus. That's going to be the offering that's going to support you the most. The next path is the Grateful Survivor path. This is for the icon that is grounded in on shedding their past self with compassion. I talked to you at length right now about the shedding process and what that was like and what goes on with shedding. And this is for the person that's focused on healing the heart with grace, embracing journaling for growth, and adopting meditation and leaning on accountability. If you are currently focused on the shedding process, this is the offering that's going to serve you. This is the place where you will like to come in, because as a grateful survivor, we are going to focus on this. We are going to focus on shedding. We're going to focus on doing it with compassion, giving ourselves grace, and doing it in a way that is empowering for you. This is where journaling comes in. I've been journaling for 14 years. I am an avid journaler. I believe in the power of journaling. I have stacks and stacks of journals here from my learnings. And these tools are so powerful. I think his name is Jim Rowe. Rowe? I might be pronouncing it correctly, but he talks about the most priceless possession that he owned were his journals. And he's this like big salesperson and motivational speaker that was big, I think, in the 1960s, 50s. I may be getting the dates incorrect, but he was a big deal in the business space, entrepreneurial space. And he talked about the power of journaling. And it's not just him. Oprah talks about the power of journaling. Every single spiritual teacher that I've ever learned from talks about the power of journaling. It is an extremely important skill to cultivate because it can teach you a lot about yourself when it is done with intention, when it is done with a posture of love, when it's done in a way that it grows your confidence. So if that's where you are and you're shedding, this is the place for you. You can come in and play with us as a grateful survivor. For the icon that's grounded in embodying their best self with inner peace and mental calm. So those of you that are focused right now on your embodying era, those of you that are like, I am all about walking the walk and talking the talk and living my values, this is the space for you. The offering for you here is the Willful Warrior. And what we do here is we leverage the self-trust system, we leverage routines, and we leverage rituals with joy. And I'm going to talk about what the self-trust system is in a few minutes, but I just want to give you the overall of what this offering is for. And this is the type of offering that you have to apply for, because when you are embodying, there are certain things that you got to have in place, y'all. Most people have a difficult time with their self-confidence because they want to start at the embodying stage and they haven't done their discovery stage and they haven't gone through their shedding stage. And it's very difficult for you to show up to your embodying stage when you haven't done those things. Because when you do those things, you are prepared for what's going to come. You are prepared because you have created a space by letting go. You are prepared because you have seen yourself with uncomfortable honesty. You are prepared because you have acknowledged how you're feeling. I believe it was Jay-Z that said, you can't heal what you don't reveal. And if you start embodying without revealing what's required to heal, it ain't going to work. You're not going to get the results you desire. And that's why the Willful Warrior offering is an offering that requires an application. Because when you apply to it, we make sure that you are in alignment for this offering. We don't want you to sign up for something that you're really not suited for to win or to excel at. That's not how I do business. That's not what motivates me and the way I desire to show up. That's not in alignment with my values. And then the last offering I have is the Rising Phoenix offering. This is for the icon who's grounded on integrating. And I'm going to talk about integrating in a minute. So I'm giving you a little bit of a peek into the last stage, but integrating their best self into all areas of their lives with love. Here we focus on mastering responses to discomfort and self-leadership, and it's all about tiny tweaks and small shifts. Because the more, as you go through the stages of self-trust, you'll realize that there's less that needs to be added at the top. The changes are really minute. I've been playing tennis consistently since 2020. And when I'm working with my tennis coach, which I was working with my tennis coach until last year, the more I grew, the smaller the changes were. He wasn't telling me, here are all the things you need to change. We will focus on one thing, and that one thing will make a huge difference for me. And that's what happens when you're going through the integration process. Small tweaks make a huge difference. And when you know what those small tweaks are, your life changes tremendously. And that's why when you are going through the integration stage, it's all about those small tweaks. It's all about making sure that you're staying in tune to sustain what you desire. And the skill that you require to sustain what you desire is different than the skill required in order to embody. It's different than the skill that is required in order to shed. It's different than the skill that is required in order to discover. That's why the Rising Phoenix also requires an application process, because in order for you to get the most out of that experience and that offering, you gotta have the things in place. When you don't have the things in place, you're not gonna get the results you desire, and that's not gonna build your confidence. That's gonna actually erode your self-confidence. And this is why integrating is the fourth behavior that you want to focus on, and it can only be leveraged once you have the first three stages in place. The other thing I was able to do was bring myself to the table, bring all of myself to the table. So if you are new to the Yenory world, I started with this brand called I Am Healthy Fit. And I Am Healthy Fit was a beautiful beginning to this journey. It was all about eating healthy and working out. And when I was doing my business in the past few years, I would say since 2020, since 2018, I kind of stopped talking about it. Somewhere down the line, I learned that it was all about the coaching, and the coaching meant to stop talking about I Am Healthy Fit, and I just stopped talking about it. It was one of those things that I was listening to somebody, and I said, okay, well, I ain't gonna talk about it no more, because this is now a new thing. And it was part of that pattern I engage in sometimes, where it's all or nothing. So it's either all the type of coaching that I'm doing or none of the type of coaching I used to do. And what I'm doing is, as part of my own journey, is to bring all my gifts to the table. And that has meant, let me see here. That has meant bringing back I Am Healthy Fit. And I'm going to give you a tour of the Self Society before this video is complete. This episode is complete. In the meantime, I want to give you some visuals of here what's going on. I Am Healthy Fit was the space where I was talking about meal prepping and putting out recipes. So I'm bringing that into the society. That we have a library that includes meal prep guides, that includes healthy recipes that you can make in 30 minutes or less. And these are recipes that I've tested, I've put together. I am preparing right now again because I'm back on my healthy eating vibe. So here are the ways that I'm bringing myself, my gifts back into the fold in a way that integrates all parts of me. Another thing I've been doing is also bringing other gifts that I have. So one thing I do in the Subject Society is I do energy readings. I do these energy readings 3 times a week right now. And the reason why I wanted to do these energy readings was because I desire to pair it with something that I'm already doing for myself. In 2024, I'm focused on developing a prayer ritual and a prayer routine. And I'm starting with 3 times a week to make sure I'm doing my prayers. It's part of my spiritualist practice. And I do these energy readings after I do my prayer. If I don't do my prayer, I don't do an energy reading because it is designed to do the prayer. And from that prayer space, from that space of stillness, is that I want to pour into other people. So these energy readings, I do them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right now. And I share them in the society so that the members can know what is the energy given, what to look out for. And they also include a journaling prompt so that they can harness that energy with ease and with flow. So I get to do that and I bring that as well. I'm also sharing daily affirmations in there because I like to affirm myself. I like to affirm Yenory, remind Yenory of her power, and I share those affirmations with them. You may have even seen some of these affirmations here on my YouTube channel for those of us that are watching this on YouTube. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, head to the show notes so you can get the link and come see the magic that's happening over at YouTube. I am also sharing my workouts with my clients, and they are sharing their workouts with me because we are encouraging ourselves to stay fit in our journey because our physical health is also important in the journey of trusting ourselves and building our self confidence. I'm also focused bringing in books. I love to read. I'm an avid reader. And one of the things that I'm doing in the Self Society is we have a book club. It's called Robes and Reads. I know, so cute. And we read together and we talk about the things we are learning and we talk about how those things can be applied into our lives. That's another way that I'm bringing my gifts to the table. And we'll do something called a daily stand-ups in the Subject Society. The daily stand-ups are essentially ways to track what you are doing because when you know your track record, you can show up with a different level of confidence. And when you see yourself showing up powerfully, guess what? You keep on doing it. And the daily stand-up is an opportunity to track what you did yesterday, what you're doing today, and what are you celebrating? Because oftentimes we get really focused on what we want to change, what's not good enough. And what we are learning to do in the Subject Society is to look at what is good enough, what is satisfying, what is celebration, so that we can amplify that energy. And it feels great to bring all those parts of me into the fold because it allows me to utilize all the skills that I have cultivated over the years to serve. Things that I wouldn't have done before, I get to do now because I allow myself to serve in this way and I allow myself to be in the energy of authenticity. I allow myself to have the courage to share things that I interest me. And I allow myself to sit in the joy of sharing that with other people because he serves them. It's been super dope over there, y'all. Like, I ain't even playing. You're going to see when I show you the tour in a little bit. It's been lit in the Soldier Society. So the last stage is the integrating stage. And this is a stage that is really powerful. I mean, every stage is powerful. I know I've said that. The integrating stage is a stage that it's really about you sitting in your God bubble, like I mentioned earlier, and allowing yourself to experience your growth. It's about you stepping on faith instead of fear. And like the previous stages, the conditioned self is going to show up here. And so will your iconic self if you allow her. So the conditioned self in this stage tends to feel fear of the unknown, fear of abandonment and success, denial of your own pace, the conditions of want to go faster. And the biggest perceived problem here is wanting to be further ahead. If you ever said things like, I shouldn't be dealing with this anymore, or I should be 10 steps ahead of this, you are going through the integration stage and you're operating in your conditioned self energy. These feelings manifest in the form of attempting to control the uncontrollables. If you find yourself being like, this needs to move faster, I need them to move faster, wanting other people to do the thing you desire them to do, it's because you're going through the integrating stage and you are currently operating in your conditioned self. It's really that simple. And this is your invitation to step into your iconic self because your iconic self, she's feeling free. You feel free, you feel flow, you feel enough. Again, you feel enough, you feel at ease, you feel magnetic, you feel worthy, you feel patient, you feel equanimity, and you feel joyful. Equanimity is one of my favorite words. It means to be calm in the midst of chaos. And that is, I spent about 1 year only with that word, making that word North Star so that I can cultivate that skill. The skill of equanimity alone is going to bring your life to a level of peace that you cannot even begin to fathom right now. And when you are going through the integrating stage, is when you're being invited to step into that light. When you are in your iconic self, you know that God is steering you into co-creating magic. You hold the space for surrender. You hold the space for letting go. You cultivate the skill of allowing ease to flow by patiently being an authority in your life, by patiently focusing only on what you can control, by patiently allowing yourself to serve others and to be served. It is a beautiful way to show up to your integrating stage because you get to see how all the work you've done, you get to see how everything you have experienced, all of the discomfort, all of the stretching, all of the expansion comes together. Ooh, it feels so yummy too, y'all. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I want to show you what that looked like for me to go through this process of integration. So, integrating means releasing anything and anyone who wasn't aligned. So, this is actually incorrect because integrating is all about allowing God to steer me, allowing God to lead me, allowing God to help me receive. Here's what he meant. Number one was leading with my joy and peace. I stopped leading with other people and I started leading with myself. Number two is making time to enjoy the mundane. I began to enjoy doing dishes. And if you are familiar with me, you know that your girl in dishes has been a journey. I began to enjoy that. I began to enjoy making my bed. I began to enjoy cleaning. All sorts of things that before I would have been like, I ain't doing this shit. I began to enjoy it. I began to fall in love with motherhood and parenting because I love being a mother and I love parenting with my husband. And it has taken attention and intention to develop that love. I also began creating space to celebrate my clients in a different way. I began leading only with the self-trust system, and I'm going to show you what that is in a moment. And I also began creating space to receive and support, to receive and to be supported with ease. And I want to show you what that was like for me. Here are some of the things that I've been able to experience. Going through the integration process, integrating stage for me has been transformational. One of the things that I've been allowing myself to do is to catch the sunset daily. From my apartment, I'm able to see the sunset and the sunrise. And it's been really therapeutic for me and healing to watch the sunset. It is so beautiful to watch it because it reminds me that letting things go is very beautiful. Look at this beautiful sunset. This is from my house, y'all. And I have hundreds of pictures of sunset because when I take them, I like to take the entire process of the sun setting. And it's just brought me so much joy to do this. So I'm low-key my photographer bag. I've been going to the spa in my building. My complex has a sauna and a steam room and a hot tub. And I have been going there at least twice a week to recover and rest my body, which has been really beautiful and healing for my body. I've been going to the beach on solo dates. Look at me over there having my salad. And that's been cute because I live with two men and the male energy in my house be strong. So it's been really liberating and encouraging to go and be with nature and go outside and enjoy being outside. I've been cooking. I've been falling in love with cooking again, cooking for my son, cooking for my husband. I think this particular day, I live in a really loud street. So if y'all hear that, it is what it is because we're doing this one take. I made rice and shrimp and broccoli and all this yummy plantains. Like she's been on her chef bag. I've been buying flowers and arranging them myself. I love flowers and I have had a journey because at first I didn't like flowers, but now I'm into flowers. And I buy them and I arrange them myself as a form of self-care. I also went to my homegirl's house and cooked for us. I made us empanadas, chicken empanadas and beef empanadas. And she took this picture of me setting the table, which I love. It's so cute. So I've been doing that in my personal life. I've been getting to enjoy life in this way. And in my business, I've been taking bigger risks for myself, like focusing on this podcast, allowing myself to do it on YouTube and to release it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That way I can focus on one thing instead of feeling like I gotta be everywhere. I am focused on the platforms that bring me joy. I'm also focused on creating on Pinterest, which I love. I enjoy Pinterest a lot. And I have gotten up and to work with the Pinterest team on several occasions. So I love being there. I love this platform. It's a very positive platform. And I really like the vibe of that platform. And I'm focusing on growing the Self-Just Society. So it's been like win over win over win to integrate these things I've shared with you and allow myself to experience it from this angle. And I'm so grateful that I've given myself the opportunity to do that because the wins are not just mine or wings, because she's flying high. They're not just for me. My clients have also been experiencing so many transformations. Like this particular person said, yesterday I stood my ground with one of my boundaries and I didn't feel guilty about it. He felt uncomfortable during the process, but I went to sleep feeling good about it. Come on, queen. This other person said, I would say my biggest shift has been my self-awareness. I didn't realize the times that I took things personal and I shouldn't have, using victimhood, not trusting myself or handling situations better. I'm still a work in progress, but I give myself grace. I'm watching my thoughts, trusting myself more. I'm navigating my marriage and work with more ease than ever before. Come on, queen. Another person said, pushing through the discomfort of annoyance and canceling subscription. Yeah, I know it'd be annoying to do those subscriptions, to cancel them sometimes. They said she's pushing through that and managing technical difficulties with some other services yesterday, remembering I can control my feelings and reactions so I didn't get so annoyed and consumed by it all. And another person has said, I am staying motivated to do our laundry room project because, sometimes you have those projects that you want to finish and it's taking how long it's taking. Another client said, sounds silly, but I'm celebrating 2 weeks of not smoking. It feels like a month. The amount of mental clarity I've regained in the short period of time is amazing. I've committed to abstaining through the remainder of the year. We have another person that said, I'm celebrating the amazing women that clean my home every week. We've been prioritizing having a cleaning service even when we weren't making money, and it has been worth every single penny. Grateful for being open to receiving support like this. Another person said, I'm grateful for transformation, uncertainty, and for allowing myself to be honest about how I'm feeling. As I become better identifying and nurturing my own needs, I'm giving myself what I can and leaning on God for what I cannot. It's scary stuff. Another client said, in my short time here, I can already see a major shift and I want to celebrate that. Yesterday, it hit me. I didn't get up and immediately check my work email. I took the time to mentally prepare myself for the day and do my daily affirmations without rushing through it. And when stuff arose at work, I felt calm and was able to get through it when I would have typically gotten frustrated. See that frustration energy I talked about? Here's how we're shifting it. Then I had a really good conversation with my husband about what we both been struggling with and how we can support each other. That's when he hit me. These were things I was struggling with a month ago. And yesterday, it was so easy. It was something I thought I was always going to struggle with and just needed to deal with that. But it feels amazing to know that it's no longer necessary. I am excited for what's next. It's not just me getting these transformations. It's the people that are in my energetics. It's the people that are in my space. Like I have a few more I want to share with you. What am I celebrating? I reviewed my journal from 7 months ago and I wrote that I wanted to stop taking things personally. I'm celebrating the growth that I have had. Since then, I feel like my relationships with people have drastically changed and I'm able to handle tough conversations a lot better. When family or colleagues will get upset and frustrated, I used to take it so personal, and releasing that was like dropping dead weight. In some situations, I was able to help the person realize their frustration wasn't with me and they needed to get to the root of what was really bothering them. And they were appreciative of my patience and understanding. So it's not just me, it's not just my clients, it's also the people that my clients are around. It is their family members, it is their spouse, it is their children. I have a few more I want to share with you. Decision I'm celebrating is staying really unplugged and not pulled into working in my business for 3 weeks as planned. Come on, y'all know how challenging it can be to not work when you are on vacation. And this is what's being done. This is what we're tapping into. I am celebrating that my growth is forcing others to grow as well, and I am enjoying watching my family grow along with me. If you have been desiring to have your family grow with you without you focusing on changing them, with you focusing on yourself, this is what's happening in the society. What am I celebrating? Not feeling like I have to accomplish everything right now. That is a powerful celebration, because how many of us have felt like we got to do everything and we got to do it right now? In the subject society, our clients, we are focused on helping you release that energy, helping you and focus on taking your time. What are you celebrating? I'm celebrating being fertile ground for clarity. I'm celebrating choosing to pause and wait to respond instead of trying to make things happen in a way that feels draining. I am celebrating being at peace with myself. This is what we are doing. So the changes that I've been experiencing and implementing have caused a ripple effect into my clients' lives. It has caused a ripple effect into the lives of their families, their spouse, their children, their parents. There's a bunch more of these celebrations that I'm not sharing in here that you will see in the subject society, because we are all growing, we are all evolving, we are all learning to be the best version of ourselves. And this is what's possible for you as well if you choose to join us. And not only if you choose to join us, this is what's possible when you bet on yourself, when you show up powerfully. The people in your life, they also begin to grow, because your change, your decision to put yourself first and to go through the stages of self-trust are going to grow your confidence. And when your confidence grows, it kicks off a chain reaction for the people around you. Their confidence is also going to begin to grow, because they're going to see that you are showing up powerfully and that they can also show up powerfully as well. I mentioned during this video the self-trust system, and I want to briefly walk you through what that is, because I want you to know what the vibes are given. So the self-trust system, it is our signature solution. This is something that I created with my husband back in 2020. Yep, at the end of 2020, when we both got together and took everything we had learned from mentoring and coaching other people and put it all in a system. So this is here, not simply the things I've learned, it's also what my husband has learned. I didn't talk about JP's background in this video, but he is very, very, very smart and he's so self-aware. I would say he's self-aware. He's self-aware in a different way that I am self-aware. So together we have been able to create some really magical things, because he sees things that I don't see and I see things that he doesn't see. And it has really changed things for us. So the self-trust system is that. Here is a visual of the system. If you are not with us on YouTube, come through so you can see this. The self-trust system itself moves through 3 phases, and each phase has 3 steps. The first phase is the self-awareness phase, where we focus on expanding your self-awareness and spotlighting any victimhood patterns and starting to practice radical responsibility. Then we go through the self-care phase, and there we focus on responding to triggering emotions with ease, releasing negative self-talk, and unlocking your limiting borrowed beliefs. And then we end the process with self-love, where we define, it's not even just define your values, because most people that come to me, they already have values. It's about living your values, mastering your relationship with discomfort, and releasing what you cannot control. Here's how you go from being courageous to being iconic. Here's how you go from being oblivious, being a victim, being a passenger, being frustrated, being pessimistic, being ecstatic, moving at random, being in a novice energy, feeling chaotic, to being enlightened, to being an architect, to driving, to being at ease, to being open-minded, to having a dynamic relationship with yourself, to having a system in place that you can rely on, to stepping into your master energy and doing it all with calm. This is what this stuff looks like. And it's a really beautiful process that we take our clients through. In the year, we open enrollment for this program a few times. So if you are desiring to work with us and you've already gone through your discovery process and you're going through your shedding stage and you're ready for embodying, here's where you want to come in. Okay, this is going to be the system that's going to support you and it's going to serve you. It's the self-trust system. And the way that you do this is a few moments where you can enroll with us. You can enroll for the year. Right now, you can enroll for our next phase. Our next phase is the self-care phase, and that phase is going to start in May. We're going to go from May to July. During that phase, we're going to focus on winning the game, the boundaries game, giving yourself grace, and reframing your reality with intention. We're going to talk about what it takes to respond to triggering emotions with ease, releasing negative self-talk, and unlocking your limiting borrowed beliefs. We're going to be going through this in May. So if you would like to access this, you can actually apply for a call with me and we can talk about where you are and if this is the best offering for you at the moment. All right. And there's a link for that in the show notes called Apply for the Self Trust System here or something to that effect. And this is more about if you're watching me on YouTube, here's our calendar and when we cover each step, when we cover every single one so that you can see it. And ultimately, it's a community, right? So it's all about sharing. It's about creating a space where we are all together and going at it together. So one of the things I've done is to make it super easy for us to not only welcome members into the society, we've also made it very simple for members to be able to invite other members into the society. And we have done that by introducing our guest passes. So the guest passes are essentially valued at $99. And every single person that joins the Self-Trust Society has unlimited 30-day guest passes they can give to Black women in their lives who are ready to put themselves first and do it with community. And what they're able to do, they can take these guest passes and invite women that they feel like would be a great fit for the space, women that are committed to putting themselves first. There are some requirements that we have. Number one, they must be a Black woman. Number two, they must be committed to putting themselves first. Number three, they must be focused on trusting their intuition. And number four, they must have a deep desire to discover or rediscover themselves in community with other powerful Black women on the same journey. It is a really beautiful opportunity to discover yourself. If you are currently here right now and you desire one of these 30-day guest passes, let me know. Come on the YouTube channel and drop a hashtag guest pass and I will give you the link so that you can be my guest, so that you can come into the Self-Trust Society and get to experience it on your own, see what it's like. When you are there, there are some things that you're going to have access to. I'm going to give you access to the Self-Trust Society so that you can navigate your journey of self-discovery with ease. You can share pressing questions you have about self-awareness, about self-care, about self-love, and about being supported. We're going to celebrate you. We are very into celebrating in the Self-Trust Society. So you are going to be celebrated at length here. And we're going to do it anytime you put yourself first with every single win, because every win counts. And we're going to encourage you to share your wins when it comes to eating better, to moving your body, to honoring your feelings and giving yourself grace. You're also going to have access to the I'm Healthy Fit library because this is a space that's going to help you. It's a curated library of recipes, meal prep tools, monthly workout challenges we're going to be doing, daily affirmations. I've created this from my own experience. This is what has helped me, has helped my clients. We're not giving you something that we haven't put to the test. And then you're going to also have access to Vibe Check. Vibe Check is actually a private podcast that I host for the members of the Self-Trust Society. And that's where I do my energy readings. That's where you can find out what's going on with the vibe so you can show up powerfully. The last thing I want to do is, The last thing I want to do is really extend you an invitation, because if you are here and you've been here with us, let's make it official. Let's make it official. Hold on. Your girl is here. Here you go. Let's make it official. And there are two ways you can join us right now without requiring an application. You can join us as a Blooming Lotus and try it for $99. I mean, you don't have to pay $99, but it's valued at $99. You can do our 30-day guest pass offer. You can do it right there by going to the selftrustsociety.com, or you can join us as a Grateful Survivor. And you can do that for $111 a month. There are some things that you're going to want to consider when selecting your plan, and I want to go over them right now. The biggest difference between the Blooming Lotus plan and the Grateful Survival plan is where you are in your stage of self trust. If right now you're focused on discovery or self rediscovery, then the Blooming Lotus plan is the one for you. If you're focused on shedding or letting go of your past self, then the Grateful Survival plan is the one that is for you. These plans are specifically designed for you depending on what stage you are in. When you are in the discovery stage, it's important that you can be held accountable to yourself. It's important that you can be in the space, that you can test the space, and you can see yourself from the different lens at your own pace without pairing up with other people in the way that the grateful survivors are going to be doing. This is why you can test the plan for 30 days. This is why the price of the plan is what it is. And this is why you have access to things that are focused on you, solely on you, in comparison to the Great for Survival plan. That is a plan for the person that is focused on shedding. Once you are focused on shedding, you have gone through the process of self discovery. You are clear on what you're focused on now. And now you are committed to showing up for yourself in a different way. You have gone through the process of learning what you want to change. And now you're ready to change those things. That's why in this plan, we include things like accountability partners, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We give you access to the book club because we want to help you rewire your mindset to bring it in alignment. And we add elements of accountability that include other members of the Self-Trust Society. This is also why this specific plan requires a minimum of a 3-month commitment. While in comparison to the Blooming Lotus plan, there is no minimum of a 3-month commitment. You can do your 30 days and then you can go about your business, because when you are discovering, that is a very important part of your discovery process. Now, let's go through what is the process for you to sign up for the plan that you have selected. Okay, so if you want to try it out, you can simply go here to try free, and then it's going to show you what's included, a few things for you to read, and all these other fun things. You see, you don't have to pay anything at that moment. You click on try free, and then you will create an account. And here you will create your account and you will see you don't pay anything. You will simply pay 30 days afterwards, after your month is up, if you choose to stay. If you choose that this is not the space for you, you can simply cancel and go about your life. No questions asked. If you want to be in our other offering, the Grateful Survivor offering, then you want to click on the Grateful Survivor. And when you click on that, it'll give you two options. You can join us for the month, which is $111, or you can join us for the year at $1,111 for a 17% savings. When you do the Grateful Survivor, this is you committing yourself. This is you saying, I'm going to be in this space. I'm committed to being in this space, and I am ready for whatever we're doing here. This is a space that has access to the book club, because if you're going to be part of the book club, then we got to make sure that you're going to be here for us to read the books. And you're also going to get access to what we call accountability partners, which is essentially a 90-day partnership you're going to have with another member that's going to help you stay accountable. That's going to help you connect with another member in the society. So there's quite a bit of involvement for that stage. So if you are shedding, that's where you want to go. You want to go to the Great for Survivor, okay? Because that's what's going to serve you the most at this time. And if you want to partake in any of the other offerings that I have, you want to click on the link in the show notes that says Work with Nori, because that's going to take you to the application so that we can explore you joining us at that Willful Warrior or the Rising Phoenix level. Now, let's see what's inside. So when you join the Self-Trust Society, here's where you're going to land. This is our space. Welcome home. We currently are hosting our community in a platform called Mighty Networks. And when you arrive here, this is where you're going to land. When you get here, you'll be instructed to start here in our welcome section, and you'll be taken through a few steps so that you can get all acquainted with everything you'll need to do, which is going to include answering a few questions and downloading the app and introducing yourself so that we know who you are and what you got going on. If you are part of our whatever, depending on what offering you you sign up for, you'll get access to certain events, and you'll be able to see the event that you will have access to under join our next event. So that's where you'll be able to see what the goodies are for you. Everybody gets access to our I Am Healthy Fit library. I shared that with you before. Here it is. Here are all of the resources for you. And this is ever evolving. So we're going to continue to add additional recipes to that. Our book club is getting ready to kick off next month. So we're going to be selecting the time to meet together. So if you are interested in the book club, join as a Grateful Survivor and make sure that you are here so that you can help determine when we are going to step into the book club time. This is where you'll find our private podcast, vibe check, and here are previous episodes of the previous readings we have done. Here's actually the episode from today's reading, and our card for the day was the Ace of Pentacles. And I talk about what this is all about in here in this episodes, and these episodes are about 7 minutes or less. If you are part of the self-trust system, then you will get access to this section here. And we do something called Icon Quest, and we'll walk you through all of this juicy stuff in here. And here's actually the system that we walk our clients through. See, I was showing you the exact same thing I'm showing them. Taking them through the stages of self-trust so that they can know what to do, as long as, and also going through a few other pieces. Right now, we're talking about auditing yourself with compassion. Next month, we're going to talk about making powerful decisions with joy. Every single member that joins us, we actually give them a guest pass to join the Self-Trust System live calls. So they get to go join one of the calls, and the people that are currently here now, they're going to be joining our next call, which is March 19th. Every single person that comes in gets to join at least one call because we want you to see what it's like to be in the space. And every single member that joins us will also get access to our welcome call, and that welcome call will be here on the Join the Next event. Right now, we're currently doing a 2-minute challenge where we focus on working out for 2 minutes. Here you see our daily stand-up. Here you see what some of our icons have been up to. You see they've been working out. They've been hitting the spot. We also have something really fun going on where we're doing badges for certain milestones. So this person completed their first stillness check. This person completed their first daily stand-up. This people completed their first self-reflection. And you can collect these. And these badges come with really awesome prices that we will be sharing with you once you join us on the other side. And of course, we have our daily stand-up, which we are going to be completing to let us know what we have going on. So as you can tell, it's a very active space so that people can share and keep themselves accountable. It is a beautiful space for you if you are desiring to be in community, because you can see it's all about the community for us. And it's fun in there, and we want to see you in there as well. So this is an episode where I really wanted to dive deep into this and give you all of it in one sitting so you can absorb it and come back and reference it, and see these visuals and see what it's like to be in the other side of it. I know that the person that this is for is going to be really grateful for this. Going through the journey of self-trust and going through the 4 stages of trust is going to skyrocket your self-confidence. Give yourself permission to experience that. Give yourself permission to grow and to do it in community. You don't have to do it with us if you don't want to. And if you choose to, though, you're going to have a great fucking time. So that's what I had for you for today. In the next episode, I am currently sitting with what I want to create for the next episode. At first, I wanted to do a series on spiritual lessons from Dragon Ball because I am a huge Dragon Ball fan. And with the passing of Akira Toriyama, which was the creator of Dragon Ball, I've been a bit on my emotional bag about it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to start that off or not. Either way, if you join me on YouTube, I will be sharing with y'all sometime this week what we're going to talk about next week, because I feel like I need a moment to determine what I'm going to do next in the next episode. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. In the meantime, head to the YouTube channel and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star or a 6-star review. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Hasta luego, icons. Well, hasta luego, mis amores.